Clans is a Diablo-esque dungeon-crawling hack-and-slash by the developer Computer House. Now this is a re-release of a game that originally came out back in 1999. And for any of you that might remember, the game really didn't get positive reviews back when it was released, and I have to say that it didn't get any better with age. The tone for the entire game is set as soon as you launch it, when you're greeted with an error message asking you to insert the non-existent game CD. And this isn't some kind of tongue-in-cheek reference to gaming in the 90s, this actually seems like just a really bad port. And to make things worse, the developer almost insultingly suggests that this is a feature. If you insert your own audio CD into the drive, the game will then use that for the background music. There's one tiny problem with this feature though. If you choose not to put a disc in the drive, or you don't have an optical drive as was true in my case, the game has no music. You play the entire game listening to nothing but the dialogue and the miscellaneous grunts and groans and cries of all the characters on screen. And that brings us to the next problem, which is the options. There are none. There's no way to change the aspect ratio or the resolution, there's no way to change the keyboard bindings, and there's no volume options of any kind. Now these are all technical issues that could be forgiven if the gameplay was absolutely stellar, but it just isn't. To start, the dungeon crawling isn't the same smooth, open experience that we're used to from the Diablo series. The dungeons consist of a series of very small rooms. Each room is essentially its own zone, and you move between these rooms or zones by clicking one of the red arrows in one of the cardinal directions. To make the exploration even worse, the map is too intrusive to have open all the time, but there was no hotkey that I was able to find to open it easily, so if I wanted to look at it, I had to stop what I was doing and drag the mouse over to click the button. The exploration isn't even my biggest problem with clans. To me, the biggest mistake made was the fact that the monsters don't seem to drop loot. Half the fun of fighting a huge swarm or defeating a hard boss is the expectation and the hope that some shiny new armor or a powerful new sword is going to drop. But even if they did drop loot, there wouldn't be much to find anyway. There's only two types of weapons, swords and axes, and one type of armor that gets a +1, 2, 3, 4, 5 depending on its power. Add to that the fact that there's no experience in this game. Your character doesn't progress through fighting, but rather through random potions that increase stats that are scattered throughout the dungeons. There's also no town or hub of any kind for all of the dungeon levels. You do see merchants occasionally, but they usually don't have anything worth buying, and that makes the gold that you do find mostly useless. I really looked for a silver lining here, but I just couldn't find it. Clans is a herky-jerky feeling game with no character progression, no fun items and weapons, and no background music. There is a multiplayer option that should add value to the game, but it doesn't, because there's no way to search for games. You have to know the IP address of the host, and since I don't know anyone else that bought Clans, there's no way that I can utilize it. Even at under $3, there's no way that I can recommend anyone buy Clans. If you're looking for a retro dungeon crawler, spend a couple extra bucks and find a used copy of Diablo.